back to Matt's World. Today I'm joined by the lovely Freddie Arthur. Hello.
Okay, quickly, can I just ask, where am I looking?
You can look at
both?
me. You can look at the camera.
Okay.
We're good.
Great.
We're all a family here, so everyone listening, they're like on the journey with us, and that's how I like it to feel.
Okay, good.
Like we're all having a little coffee together and vibing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
So you're a comedian and you have so many funny things that I want to chat to you about, but I really want to talk to you about what made you want to get into comedy and what like spurred it on.
Okay, so about I guess I started 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I was at a point where my mental health was really, really bad.
Yeah.
And I realised I didn't have any friends. I was barely leaving my house because I've got quite chronic OCD amongst other mental illnesses. Mm-hmm. And the OCD was getting so bad that I would get really stressed about leaving the house and just doing the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And I'd just be like, if I leave the house, you know, there's ants all over the ground. I'm going to step on the ants will die. And I'd feel really guilty about it. And I just wouldn't leave. I just wouldn't go outside.
But that's the thing about OCD. It's so irrational, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so irrational. And then I started doing group therapy over Zoom. Yeah. And one of the things with the group therapy was that they'd sort of be like, all right, this week try and do blah, blah, blah. So for like one of the other people, he was like really, I think also quite nervous about leaving his house. And so his sort of like goal that he set himself was that he was going to go to the local shopping centre and get a haircut. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, I also need something like that. And one of my fears was that I'm always going to say the wrong thing. Like I was always really nervous of that. And so I wouldn't go to like parties and stuff. Aww. And just wouldn't interact with people.
Yeah.
And then I realised that maybe the sort of most intense way to kind of dive into that would be on stage, because you get up there and you just kind of don't really know what's going to come out of your mouth.
Yeah, it's so true. Like I've done stand-up once.
Oh.
Yeah, only once, because I did it I won this thing through work and I did it with Nova Radio.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's like you black out. I couldn't remember any of it. And I was like, what? I have no idea what I'm saying.
Oh, did someone film it or something?
Oh, yeah. It was actually pretty funny. But like,
oh, good.
Yeah, it worked out good. But like, it was like I just blacked out and I was like, I don't even know what's coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was like kind of nervous about that, but I also knew that maybe it would be a really good way to kind of face the fear.
Yeah, going full on.
Yeah, exposure therapy, basically. So that's what I did. And then I just realised as soon as I signed up, I thought I was going to be really nervous and like hate it. Well, not hate it, but I thought it would just be really anxiety inducing.
Yeah, for sure.
And as soon as I signed up, I was like so excited. I was telling everyone. I told my neighbours. My neighbours came to watch. And
oh my God.
Yeah, and then I was just like, I love this.
That's
and I
so
keep doing
cool.
it.
What, like the adrenaline of it, or like what did you love the most about it?
I think I've always liked being funny, but was just like most people that I was around were kind of like, oh yeah, but women aren't funny, you know? I
hate this trope. And like I definitely fell into the trap of being like the cool girl when I was like in my teens or like in my like early 20s and stuff, like trying to be like, like women aren't funny, like Melissa McCarthy's so lame and stuff. And then like I became like slowly over my 20s I've become more and more of a feminist, and like just also like getting educated about it and like learning to like love other women. Like I feel like I used to be quite competitive with other women and stuff when I was growing up, because it's just insecurity. But now I'm like, I read this book all about how Melissa McCarthy is actually like one of the, I know she's like superstar famous, but also she writes a lot of comedy that men would watch and think is funny and then not know that it was written by a woman. Yeah. So like she's kind of like, they call her like the mother of comedy and stuff. Like she actually has so much influence. Like she did lots of, when I was in LA recently, we went to this thing, it was called Groundlings, and it's like a improv comedy thing. And so like Kristen Wiig started there, like Will Ferrell's been there, like all the main like big Hollywood comedians have started there, and like she I think started there as well. And like it's just like so much of what men think is funny, like they have no idea who wrote that joke, you know. And also I saw this TikTok recently that was like there's boy funny and girl funny, and like boy funny is just like simple, like either insulting people or it's just like someone getting hurt or like a poo joke, or like it's just like very like surface level. But then I feel like female humor is very like, it's so witty and it's like based on like years of in jokes, and it's so layered, and it'll be like you say this niche thing and it's like so funny, and I'm like, that is I think that is so true.
Yeah, I think there's this kind of trope that a lot of male comedians fall into, and it's like they get on stage and they talk about how bad they are at sex, right? And then their second joke is about how their wife doesn't want to have sex with them, and it's like, do you want to maybe put two and two together?
Yeah, maybe she doesn't want to have sex with you because you're really bad at sex.
Yeah, maybe just be better at fucking. You know what I mean?
So real.
It's just like,
that's so funny. Yeah. But also it could be the other way. Like maybe she's not wanting to have sex, so he can't get practice.
Oh, he can't practice. Yeah, true. Practice on your mains. Like, I don't know.
Practice on your fleshlight. This meme page I follow did a thing this week, and it was like, why are dildos like fine, like all good, whatever, but then a fleshlight is like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I've been thinking about that as well, and I think it's because it's grotty, like because you're actually depositing something in there.
And apparently lots of guys, this is like how some guys don't know how to wipe their ass properly. Yeah. They just wouldn't clean a fleshlight. Wait till it gets completely fucking unusable and then
it would start to stink. Did you know that you can get them for dogs?
Jesus.
Yeah. So
oh my God.
This is one of my favourite little facts. So you can get sex toys for dogs, but only male dogs, as far as I've found.
That's
anyway,
sexist as fuck.
In my research, yes. But so they have all these different types. My favourite one is called the plush puppy. I haven't used it, sorry. But my favourite,
my personal favourite, 5-star review.
Well, if I was getting one for a dog, I'd probably get the. Oh, would I? I don't know. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. Mm-hmm. But the plush puppy looks like a toy dog.
Oh my God!
But it's got really stiff legs, and then it's got a hole in the back. And then they just insert in there, and then once they're done, you take that kind of silicone insert out, and then just give it a rinse under the tap.
Honestly, I would never love my pet that much. That's crazy.
One of the reasons that they say it's good to have is because it's good for anxiety, because sometimes when dogs get stressed, they'll hump stuff, right?
I mean, my dog used to hump stuff when he was a puppy, but just get him a teddy bear and then just get him de-sexed and he'll stop. What?
Yeah.
But maybe if it's a breeding dog, but
I don't know.
But me, that's intense.
But the worst part about it is that there's videos showing you this is how the dog uses it. It's the dog's gonna work it out. We don't need a video.
Yeah, and who's made that
creepy.
Video?
And then they can also come with you can get an inbuilt sound, so it has the sound of a female dog being
oh my God.
And then it can also have a scent in there, a little pheromone that it releases, which I think is weird because then you're tricking the dog into using it. Just put it there, and if it uses it, fine.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's sort of coercing it into doing it.
I don't like it.
That is so fascinating. You have so many good stories. We did a call yesterday to chat about what we talk about, and honestly, it went so west, and I was like, this is great.
Yeah, got some weird little bits.
Oh my God. And you've got an upcoming solo show called Dysfunctional Family Jukebox. Can you tell me about the inspo behind it and where people can go and see it?
So this show is, the reason I decided to do it is because about 10 years ago, one of my cousins got arrested.
Same probs.
For public masturbation in Kmart.
What?
So he's gone into Kmart, whipped it out, and then just started jerking off.
Oh my God.
But anyway, it's obviously ended up in the paper. And I don't think that's a good thing to be doing, but it's just
no.
But it's obviously quite shocking, and it's I couldn't believe that someone I knew was doing that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I was telling people, I was like, oh my God, you'll never guess what my bloody cousin's done. And then eventually someone was like, I can't believe you're telling people about that. I can't believe you're not ashamed. They're like, aren't you embarrassed? Aren't you worried about what people will think about you?
But you didn't do it.
And I was like, I didn't do it, exactly.
What? That's if your random uncle killed someone, you'd be like, well, I didn't kill him.
Well, one of them did not kill someone, but he did try to shoot his own brother. I don't know why he didn't do it in the end. It was some kind of land dispute.
Was it in so like country vibes? So I was like, we're in Australia. Like, what year was this? But shotgun vibes.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's right. Yeah. So I just, the more I thought about it, I was like, I've got so many of these weird family stories.
Obsessed.
And none of it is stuff that I need to be ashamed about.
Yeah.
And then I just realised there's probably a heap of other people that also have these weird stories, and I kind of just want to create a space where I can be like, hey, we're airing out the dirty laundry today.
Amazing.
So it's me going through all my like kooky members of my family, and then I'm going to be dressing up as some of them and then like singing songs about like the weird stuff they've done. So I've got like a song about my dad where he's like, I love smacking my kids, and then like my mum like singing about how she's a homophobe and stuff.
Oh my God.
And then it's also me like going on a like queer awakening journey as well.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
That's so cool. And I've got so many questions about your born again bisexual concept, which is super iconic. But before that, I want to know, you've performed in London, Edinburgh and Melbourne and a few more cities. What's like the most craziest gig you've ever done?
So one of the weirdest ones I've done was actually in Bryagalong. I don't know,
is
like
that
near Gippsland.
Like a country town type vibe?
Yeah, near Gippsland, if you know Gippsland.
Yeah.
So my cousin was like helping run this like festival, like a smaller festival. I think it's sort of like 300 to 500 people or something. And they're like, hey, can you do stand-up comedy? Can you MC this open mic? And I'd only been doing it for like maybe like 6 months or something.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, cool. All right. Like great opportunity, like big crowd, whatever.
Yeah.
Then I get there. Oh, by the way, I hate camping. I get there. And then I was like, oh, cool, when's this like open mic happening? And they were like, oh, tomorrow. And I was like, oh, cool, Saturday, that'll be great, Saturday show. And I was like, oh, what time? And they're like, oh, 10:30 a.m.
Oh.
And I was just like, are you fucking joking?
What? So you're the proper warm-up. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Wait, everyone's just done their like yoga, got a hangover.
They were doing yoga actually, yeah. Anyway,
I love that at a festival.
So then I had to, it was sort of right next to the like coffee van. Mm-hmm. So people were lining up for the coffee, and then I went down and just sort of started this open mic, and I kept saying, oh, have you put the list out? Have you, have you made sure that people are signing up? And they're like, yeah, don't worry, people will just, it all happen organically, blah, blah, whatever. God. So I get up there and I'm like, where's the list? Where's the list? And they're just like, oh, you'll just have to start. So I start. I've only been doing it, as I said, for like 6 months. Yeah. So I exhausted all of my material in like 20 minutes. And then I was like...
And you couldn't do any crowd work if there's no one there either.
Well, they were sort of scattered, and they were all like... They'd all been up all night and all that kind of thing. They were all coming down, all this kind of thing. Yeah. So then I was kind of sort of trying to talk to people, and then I was like, do you want to sign up? Do you want to sign up? And then eventually I got out my ukulele, sang a few songs. I was just trying to pass the time, because it was meant to go for 3 hours.
What?
And I was like, there's no one signing up for this open mic. And so eventually I was just like, right.
So it was open mic comedy.
Or it was open mic, kind of everything. It was a bit
slam poetry.
It was kind of whatever. I was like, I'll take anything at this point. Oh. And it was just very clear no one was signing up. And
so you just had to keep manning the fort.
What I ended up doing was I was like, look, I'm just going to pretend to be different people. So then I just kind of like messed up my hair a bit and like hunched my shoulders and then just like walked away from the mic and walked back and said, "G'day there, I'm Gary. I'm auditioning for Shrek the Musical." And then I just did that. And I just kept doing that over and over again as different characters.
Oh
and
my God, for 3 hours?
Well, after about an hour, I think people were like, God, someone do something. And then this man who's a mime artist, he came up, didn't say anything, just kind of shooed me away.
Yeah.
And then sort of told a very strange story about a Jack Russell, and then went and picked up a bit of like a board of cork and just started smashing it against his own head until he started bleeding. He's since had a stroke, but he's doing okay.
What?
And then someone got up and just did a burp into the microphone. Like it was chaos. But it ended up being a really, really fun.
Yeah.
And I think it actually made me a much better comedian.
Yeah, because it was like proper improv with no prompts, and you just had to come up with shit.
And it also just meant that like now any other gig that I do, I'm like, well, it's not going to be 3 hours of ad-libbing.
That's so good.
Yeah, so I'm very grateful to that. It was very strange, but
it's good to have a benchmark of how low you can go. Like, I feel like when I like had a bit of a drinking problem in England, I would be like, well, at least I've not like pissed on the floor inside or something, like something crazy, like, and just feel like, do you know what, like, I may have embarrassed myself last night, but it wasn't as bad as the time that I nearly knocked over a £500,000 vase in the Victoria and Albert Museum.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was literally like, it was like dunk, dunk, dunk. No, and my boss was there and I was like, you're not the boss of me. He was like, I literally am your boss. It was so bad.
But were you drunk though?
Oh yeah, wasted.
Oh, okay.
We're at a ball, a charity cancer ball, actually.
I mean, I sort of feel a little bit like if it's that precious, put a bit of glass around it.
Right? Literally.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Velcro it down or something.
I hate it when you walk into someone's house and they've just got the urn just sort of, and it's like grandma's getting smashed. Honestly, I don't know. It's just a bit silly.
Imagine someone's Great Dane just bounds in and just knocks it over and then grandma's just scattered on the floor.
Yeah.
Not good. Oh, dear. Yeah. Well, a question I always love to ask on the pod, which is, it's Heritage Mads World. It goes back to episode 1. It's what is your funniest or most insane date story?
Oh, okay.
Everyone has one.
I mean, I feel like I haven't dated as much as I wanted to. Mm-hmm. What I tend to do is go on the first date, bang, and then never see them again.
Oh my God, same.
So
do you get like boy brain, like post-nut clarity, where you're like, I hate you now? Because I get that so much.
They leave and I'm like, if that hadn't been a one night, if I hadn't, I'll just tell you. So, like, I mean, I'll often, like, meet someone on an app and then I'll be like, look, can we not beat around the bush, just come over?
Yeah.
And then,
that's fine.
It's fine. And then it'll happen and they'll leave and I'll just be like, if I'd met that person on a date, there's no way I would have gone home with them.
Yeah, 100%.
But then they're at your house and you're just kind of like, oh, yeah.
You're already here. You can't kick you out now.
Yeah.
That's why I like to meet in public first and then you can do the emergency phone call and be like, oh, my God, my friend's, she's been hit by a car.
I mean, it's not like I'm doing it and I'm not enjoying it. It's just that I'm like, I'm just like, oh, if I'd sort of not been in that sort of sexual headspace, 100%. I would have been a bit like, oh, this is an absolute nutbag.
Yeah, we've all had that moment when it's like you're kind of horny and then you're messaging someone and then afterwards you're like, I'm a disgusting piece of shit. Like that's not in alignment with my core values. Like,
well, one guy that
was a different girl.
One guy that came over, he was quite strange.
Yeah.
And I was going through quite a lonely phase. I'd actually just cut contact with my family and I was trying to fill the void with just people that I met online.
It happens. Breakups, all kinds.
Yeah. So anyway, I matched with this guy and I was like, hey. I was just like, hey. I think he was like, oh, you want to meet for a drink? And I was like, well, it's 11 p.m. Do you want to just come over?
Yeah.
And then
we both know what.
Yeah, we both know.
Yeah.
So, and we both, we was like within a few kilometres of each other or whatever. So I was like, just come over. And then he was just like, nah, I don't want to, I don't want to I feel like I should take you for a drink first. And I was like, well, look, I'm fine with it. If you want to go for a drink, that's absolutely fine. But I'm just saying, don't feel like
on my account.
Yeah. And then we ended up having a phone call and then he was just like, hey, I just think, I'd really feel like more respectful if if I took you for a drink. And I was like, I don't need you to respect me. I just need you to come round. Or if you're not, or like if you're really not up for that, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, but on my account,
but just don't be like, oh, it's about you. No, it's not about me. I've said I'm fine. Anyway, we had another phone call. It was a bit strange. In hindsight, I probably should have just been like maybe realised that he wasn't really as up for it as he was pretending to be, but I really just kind of felt like he was just like trying to be like overly respectful.
Yeah.
So he ended up coming round and then like, oh my God, and then he's undone his pants and then he's flopped it out and it was enormous. It was the biggest thing I've ever seen. It was just like, it was huge, absolutely huge. I don't know if you've ever bought like a, is Donny's Good, the big salami?
Oh my God.
It was like that.
What, limp or hard?
I don't know what it was. I guess it was. I don't know. I don't know. It was too much, and he flopped it out, and then he's just said, "What do you reckon?"
What say to that? Like, they're like thumbs up, thumbs down. Like, what
I just said, oh, yep. Okay. And because I kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm no longer going to be sort of like, you know how I feel like, especially when I was a bit younger, I felt like I had to really like be really encouraging of men and be like, God, oh, that's amazing. I love your cock and stuff.
Honestly. Oh my God, it's so massive.
So I got over that and I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. So then he flipped it out. Oh, what do you reckon? And I was just like, oh, yep. And then he said, oh yeah, but what do you reckon of it? And I was like, oh yeah, it's not going in. Yeah. And then he I don't know, we just sort of did some stuff and then he went back to his mum's house. Oh. Which is fine. I'm not bad, but it was just the fact that like he'd obviously I don't know, it was
weird vibes.
It was just very obvious that like it seemed like maybe he couldn't live alone.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I don't know. Like he just seemed like maybe he was quite dependent on his mum was the vibe that I got.
Oh, that's so
and then
weird.
It was really weird. And then he would like kind of message me a lot and just sort of, and I was like, I made it quite clear that it wasn't not an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
And he would keep messaging. And then at one point, I think I had to let him know that I had COVID.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, just letting you know that I've got COVID, so make sure you get tested.
Yeah, if he's living with his mum too, and she's like, oh, yeah, you got to do the right thing.
It sounded like a slightly strange dynamic, but whatever. And then when I said to him, oh, I've got COVID, he's just sent back like the water drop emoji.
Like the wet emoji.
Yeah, and I was like, is that you coming? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I've just told you I'm ill.
Like, to me, that's phlegm. Like, that's
but it was also like the time during COVID when it was like you get COVID and you think it was like, oh, it kind of felt like more of a like this is really scary, you might die.
Or like you get some like serious long-term thing. I like lost my sense of taste and smell and I was super depressed.
It was like it was kind of early on when it was sort of like, oh, I don't know, and he was just like, oh yeah, I'm fucking coming.
What?
Just it was very, very odd.
I love that story.
So, and I didn't get the impression that he left the house much.
Oh my God.
To be honest with you. Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
That's okay just to say
yeah.
Oh dear.
But then the first date I went on with a woman was also, I mean, look, I've since seen this woman and she denies everything, but whatever. So
allegations.
We went on a date to the football. And it was really cold. I feel like it was winter and she was wearing like these little shorts. And I remember just like seeing she had this enormous, the biggest scab I've ever seen on someone's knee. It's really, really huge.
Ew, like a child-sized scab. Like I feel like I haven't had like a
do you mean like the one that a child has or like the size of a child? I was like, what?
No, the size of a 3-year-old. No, like I feel like I haven't had a big knee scab since I was less than 10 years old.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. It was bigger than it was just
what?
Like it reminded me of like my grandfather used to get like he had like an ulcer on his leg. It looked like that, like when it all scabbed over.
Oh,
like it
Jesus.
It's sort of it was like I reckon the size of your palm.
It draws the attention too. Like if you're wearing shorts in winter as well, like she obviously wanted you to ask about it.
Well, the thing that people, because I was like, why didn't she? I mean, look, I don't need people to be ashamed of their scab, but I was surprised that she'd wear shorts.
Or just wear like some kind of dressing on it, like at least for your own health.
And then someone said to me, well, maybe she was sort of trying to advertise, like, look at me, I obviously get on my knees, but.
Or maybe it's like, look at me, I'm a cool skater girl.
Maybe, I don't know. But the thing is that we went to the football, we went inside, we sit down, and then I had this like bucket of chips, and you know, like you've got the bucket of chips, you sort of put it in your lap. Yeah. And then she sort of sat with her leg crossed over so that her like the scabby knee was kind of like dangling over my lap. And then the whole like game she was just like picking at this scab and like flicking it towards me.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Like absent-mindedly or just
I mean, I assume so.
That's fucked up. Literally put a bandage on that thing, girl. What the hell?
And then I kind of was just like, it kind of... I didn't go on another date with a woman for a while because I was just like, I don't know. I was like, is this what they're like? Is this what they're doing?
Is this the standard? And you only came out, and I want to chat to you about this, you only figured out or explored your bisexuality and you described yourself to me as born again bisexual, which is fucking iconic. And I need to know, was there like a moment of discovery or like a baptism of fire moment, or like, because my friend figured out, like I feel like every gay I've spoke to has this moment where they're like, oh, hang on. And for my friend, it was seeing Robbie Williams in gold hot pants when he was 10, which is like, he saw that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Your friend was 10.
My friend
I
was
meant
10.
Robbie Williams was 10.
No, Robbie, like he's not only gay, he's also a pedophile. No.
He's my uncle.
Actually, it was me. So he was 10. There's a video, I think it is Rock DJ or no, it must be something else, but it's Robbie Williams in gold hot pants on like a spinning plate thing, and he saw that and was like, I really like that.
It's sounding very Kylie Minogue.
Yeah, it was very like queer bait of him.
Yeah.
But yeah,
right.
I think he was like, oh, that is actually awesome. And I love looking at that. And that was like his moment of enlightenment where he was like, hang on a sec. But did you have a moment when you tell me about how you came out and how you like started figuring it out.
I feel like I had like crushes on people when I was like a kid and stuff, like other girls, but I was just like, oh, this isn't a thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Same.
Yeah. And then when I was like maybe like 25 or something, I watched, how do you say her name? Their name, sorry. Halsey, yeah. Halsey. I watched like...
Is Halsey non-binary?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
As far as I know, yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, so I watched, I think, like the Bad at Love music video.
Yeah.
I kind of went through their whole like discography. Discography?
Yeah, we got
And
there.
I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. Anyway, and then I kind of sat in my room for a bit, just like watching all these music videos and being like, oh no. And then and then got off my bed and then went into the kitchen, and my housemate was in the kitchen, and I was like, oh. And I was like, oh, I think I might be pansexual, which is what I was saying at the time.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, okay. And she was very sweet about it, and she was just like, oh, okay. I was thinking, I often think that maybe, I'll marry a man and have a few kids and then I'll come out as a lesbian. And I was like, okay. And
that's kind of what I think will happen to me, to be honest.
And she was just like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah. She was like, okay, yeah, you don't have to make any decisions, but yeah. And then like a few days later kind of came back to me and was like, oh, a friend of mine's actually going to this, this queer club. I thought, oh, maybe we could go along. And, she's like pretending that it's like all off the cuff and whatever.
I love this person.
She's really
so
great.
Nice.
Yeah. So we went to that, and yeah, that was really nice. And then I forgot about this actually. Then I had like some kind of mental breakdown, unrelated, I think. But I went home to Mildura and stayed with my parents. I think I was like changing like antidepressants or something or whatever.
And Mildura is like proper country vibes for everyone.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say it's a great place to change your antidepressants.
Yeah, it's a really good place. That's like where I'd recommend to go.
Yeah, well, anyway, so I got there and I thought, I'll just let them know.
Yeah.
I just sort of, I still hadn't sort of made any hard and fast decisions. I wasn't using any labels. So I thought, I'll just give them a heads up.
Yeah.
And so I went into the kitchen and my mum was unloading this dishwasher. She had her back to me, and it's kind of good to like let someone know news while they're doing a task sometimes or something. Is that a thing? I don't know.
I feel like that but that's because I have ADHD. So
okay.
I like to, it's called not body doubling. It's like you multitask because it's I'm better at doing stuff.
Yeah, right.
I probably could handle hard news if I was like deep in cleaning my room.
Didn't work on mum. Oh. So she was unloading the dishwasher and I was like, a friend and I just went to a gay bar the other day, a lesbian bar, and nothing happened. I didn't go home with anyone, but I just wanted to let you know I'm exploring that option.
Oh, and okay, then pretty chill, pretty normal things. Like that's pretty casual.
Then my mum turns around, holding a knife, a massive knife, and just goes, "Oh, so you and this friend, she's gay, is she?"
Oh,
and I was like, can you put the knife down? Also, it wasn't really about the friend.
You're going to kill me? What?
Anyway, so the weird thing about that though was that I then, you know, went back to Melbourne and like was like, oh my God, I've got this funniest story about my mum. You'll never guess what she did. And I was telling people and they were like, that's not that funny.
This is what I said in a recent episode. It's like, if I tell you a funny story, you cannot pity me. I was so brave sharing that. Like the last episode that I put out, I talked about how I like shit myself in all these places. And it's just like so funny. And then like I would like tell it at work to like my work friends and they'd be like, are you okay? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. It's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the other day I was on stage and I was like, oh, but someone did a story about their dad. And I was like, oh, cool, I'll whip out, you know, this story about my dad. And I was like, oh, yeah, so my sister was a child model and I wasn't. And I was there when she was.
That alone is so funny.
I was there when she was scouted. So we're at like a family Christmas party and there was all this like extended family there and friends and whatever. And as we were walking past this woman like stopped us and went, oh, you. And like pointed at my sister.
That's like what every child dreams will happen to them.
Yeah. And she was like, you, you could be a model. And then I'm just standing there going,
what about me?
And then she's like, yeah, we need it. We need a model. And then she looked at me and said, we've already got a brunette. And I was like, okay, thanks.
Was your sister like a really beautiful child or something?
She's often compared to Ally McPherson. So yeah.
Oh, okay, well, that's like pretty cash, like pretty chill.
But anyway, she ended up in this like Mary-Kate and Ashley campaign and she was on like this big billboard.
I forgot that they had like clothes.
They had a fashion label, yeah.
Oh my God,
so then for a while, because we got all these free clothes out of it.
Yeah.
So for a while, like me and my sister would just wear these Mary-Kate and Ashley. Like, that was like our whole wardrobe.
Yeah.
But it was I don't know, like I was happy for her and stuff, but I mean, it just kind of, I already thought I was really ugly. So.
Oh no, you're gorgeous.
Oh, thanks. And then the other thing is my parents used to fight over who she kind of took after because obviously, you know, it was just really pretty. And then they'd be like,
and you're just sat there like, who did I take after?
I'd be like, oh, which one of you did I take after? And they're like, oh, your grandma, you know, just kind of like that. And then one day when I was about like 15, we went to meet some friends at a cafe and like one of them had just had a baby and it was like everyone was passing around the baby, and when I held the baby was just like so stoked and it was like, ugh, and everyone was like, oh, Freddie, look, the baby loves you, look how much the baby's smiling, the baby absolutely just adores you. And my dad said, oh, that's weird. Oh. Babies usually like symmetrical faces. Oh, they usually prefer her sister.
What the fuck?
I know, and everyone just went, oh.
Oh, it's like, there's that TikTok that goes, what an odd thing to say.
And actually now I think about it, that must have been around the same time she was like doing the modelling.
That is so crazy.
It was, pretty tragic.
Wow.
Pretty tragic.
I can't remember how we got onto this, but the pity stories.
Yeah. So I did this on stage and I'm like, oh, this is such a killer story.
Yeah.
No one laughed. And I was like, oh, you're actually making it worse.
Yeah, like it's funny. Laugh at it. Because if it's not funny, it's sad. And I don't like that.
Yeah. Anyway.
My God.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Well, I guess this kind of leads well into my next question, which is all about like, have you had a moment where someone has doubted or like frowned upon you being bisexual? Because we spoke about this a little bit yesterday, but I think it's such a fascinating concept that like a lot of people may not talk about because it sounds like it could almost lead into like homophobia. But the fact that like some gay people frown upon bisexual people, you know, like tell me about your experiences with that.
Well, part of it is just me like doubting it myself and just being like, oh, you're not a real like queer person because, you know, I had this really hard thing that would happen when I like first started identifying as bisexual because I'd like go into a bar and I'd see like 5 guys. You know, you sort of clock someone and you're like, oh, yeah, that one. Oh, you clock a couple.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, well, you haven't liked the look of any women, so you're obviously a fake.
You're a fraud.
Yeah. But then the opposite would happen sometimes where I'd like maybe like you see a couple walking, often see a couple and you're like, the woman's banging and the guy's trash.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I'd be like looking at the woman and be like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then I just think, oh, well, you're obviously not bisexual. That, and like, I'm just constantly kind of like being
it's a battle.
Yeah. It's like I have to sort of like, if I find a woman attractive, then I have to look around and find another man to sort of like 100%. Equal it out or whatever.
I feel like I had, because like I've never felt like I've had to come out as bisexual, which I think like, and I guess this is me doing it on the internet right now, but like,
yay!
Woo! But I feel like it's just like, I feel like first of all for women, it's way more, it's easier because it's socially accepted, whereas for men it's a lot more challenging. And like, but then I think the whole like trope of like being overly sexual and like overly like horny and just wanting to like fuck everyone is such a like biphobic thing as well. Like it's very much like, oh, they must just like love sex and not care like who it's with type thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I think like that for men, I feel like is more of a thing. Whereas for women, I don't know, because porn and like it's more like about the male gaze. Like that's why it's more normalized and stuff. Because like I think I kind of had the same thing. Like if I saw like a really like hot woman, I used to think when I was growing up, I'd be like, oh, I'm just jealous of her. I want to look like her. And like, and also I did a lot of art when I was growing up and I loved drawing like the female body, and I'd always be drawing the female body, and like the female body is just objectively more interesting to draw because like it's got more like curved lines and like it's just like it's more, I feel like it's more beautiful, but that maybe is just my own like internal monologue saying that because of bisexuality. But like I think that it kind of, that was all probably driven a lot, like the desire to not fancy women was driven by like internalized homophobia. And I feel like we were saying this yesterday, there's that whole concept of like sexuality OCD, which is I'd never heard of, which do you want to talk about that? Because that is so fascinating to me because I actually also recently got diagnosed with OCD, but I feel like I can't talk about my experiences with that yet because I hate when people overly talk about things when they're not educated on it, and I don't know enough about it.
Well, I mean, you can talk about your own experience though.
Yeah, that's so true.
I mean, I feel like, the interesting thing I find about OCD is that, so I've had some really good therapy for it.
Yeah.
But
I need their number.
Yeah. Well, so I had the group therapy and then I've also had a bit of one-on-one.
Yeah.
Something important to say about OCD actually is that talking therapy often doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you regularly just kind of like, oh, what's going on? And then you going, oh, I get really worried about germs, and then because then you're just ruminating.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So which is why the like exposure therapy is really, really good.
It's so scary.
Yeah, but it's quite fun. Like I would find it quite exciting. Like setting yourself a little challenge. I would give myself like stickers when I did it. Like I would go up to like traffic lights, like what are the crossings called? The pedestrian crossing, whatever. And I'd go up and I'd press the button.
I usually kick it with my foot.
Oh my God!
I usually, because I'm quite flexible, I could kick like that.
Oh shit!
I would, because I don't want to touch it, so I'll kick it.
I used to I'd either use like elbow or knee.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. That's great.
Yeah.
But I would go up. This is one of the challenges I would set myself is like I would press it with my finger and then I would put my finger in my mouth. Also, I'm doing this in public. Imagine people watching being like, what is this bitch doing? But I would just I'd rub it a bit and put it in my mouth and then like just suck on it. And then each time I did it, I would try and do it for a little bit longer. And you're also trying to do it until you no longer feel like
dirtier from it.
Or until you know, because I mean, it is gross. I think that's fine to admit.
Yeah.
But until you like no longer feel like so much anxiety that you're like freaking out kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know?
that's fascinating.
So you're meant to sort of find, it's like a window, I think it's a window of anxiety. So if something's causing you like 100% anxiety, it's probably going to be too much for you to do an exposure on that. But if it's something that's like causes you like
discomfort.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, I don't know, 70 to 80 kind of whatever. So that was kind of my realm.
Yeah.
So,
but then
anyway,
sexuality OCD is so fascinating. And I think the way you described it yesterday was like people get obsessed with not wanting to be a certain sexuality or thinking they are or trying to discover it. Yeah. And I feel like me as a kid, like I have memories of like, you know, when I was like 12 or 13. And this is because this was the era when everyone was running around going, that's so gay, that person's gay.
True.
And it was just so like homophobia even in children was rife because it was just like, you'd see like two girls being friends. Or like, I remember saying to my friend who was a girl when we were like in grade 5, I'd be like, who's your crush? And she'd be like, I don't have one. I'd be like, well, it means you're a lesbian if you don't have a crush. And it's like, what the actual fuck? But I remember like I had a poster of like, it was like when Roxy was cool, and it was like a bunch of surfers in their bikinis. And I was looking at it and I was like, wait, do I like that too much? Does looking at that for too long make me gay? Or like I'd like my friend would get changed and I'd be like, oh my God, don't look, otherwise it might mean that you are gay.
Yeah.
And then I feel like that was all just like internalized homophobia. But the obsession that I had with that concept, just like as I learnt about gay people, my brother came out as gay, I like made loads of gay friends as an adult. Like it just also like society just changed so much in like 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
And then I feel like now it's not something that I even think about, and that's why I didn't feel the need to ever like come out as bi, because I feel like it's just kind of normal. And it's kind of like, I don't know, like just I accept it. I just inherently know it. And then it's, I don't know, like it's weird how the obsession goes away when you're not afraid of something.
Yeah, I think for me it might be something that kind of comes and goes a little bit. Like,
really?
Well, I think I don't know. Like for ages, I didn't like have the, you know, kind of germ phobia thing.
Yeah.
And then I think if I'm then in a very stressful situation, it kind of comes back. Or for like a lot of
like COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
COVID was bad for that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So I think it's kind of like maybe a sort of similar thing. Like maybe if I go through a phase where I haven't gone on dates with women for ages and then I go on a date, I might kind of, you know, get a bit anxious again or something.
Well, that's something we also talked about yesterday that was so fascinating, was like the concept of not being gay enough to go out with a lesbian. So it's sort of like, I don't want to do a test and learn on someone, and I don't want to be 31 and be exploring my sexuality with someone who figured it out when they're 18. And it's like, then they're just like, oh, you're a baby gay, or like you're still dating men, so you're a traitor. You know?
I mean, I had this very recently, and so went on maybe like 5 dates or something with this woman, and then it would always be really awkward at the end, and then eventually I was like, I think the other thing that I found really difficult was that with men, I'm quite forward.
Yeah,
and I'll
same.
be like, and so I'll be just like, hey, I want to fuck, do you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then with women, I was just like, it just instantly felt like if I do that, I'm a creep.
Yes, and I had this conversation with someone literally the other day, and it was more like, she was saying, because she's a lesbian, that both women don't want to make the first move because we're so hyper aware of how it feels to be preyed upon and like convinced to do something or coerced and something, like you would just never want to come across like that, which is so like, that is so fueled by the patriarchy 100%, because like if you're both on a date and it's going well, like if I was on a date with a guy and I got a certain vibe, I'll just go in for a kiss or like go home with them or whatever. But like if it was a woman, I feel like because I'm still a baby gay, I would just be like, I have no idea what to do right now.
Yeah, so we kind of had that. And
sorry. I'm
that's
interrupting, girl.
But so I kind of had that situation where, because I'm kind of the one that's new to it, I was kind of like, oh, this person will lead.
Yes.
But then that other person was very socially anxious, so she kind of also wasn't making the move. And then eventually it kind of had to be like, I can't remember which one it said, but I was like, what do you usually do? Like I just end up getting to a point where I can't take the uncertainty anymore, and I'm just like, what do you want to do? Like kind of thing. And then it was kind of like, I ended up just being like, look, I don't normally date people for this long. I would have usually had sex by now.
Yeah, and then got over it.
And then
whoops.
But then she was like, okay. And then I eventually just had to be like, it was like, oh, shall we kiss? And then we went to kiss, and I was just, I was really struggling with it. I was nearly crying. Like it was like, not in a, like
it's frustrating.
But it was frustrating. And it was also like, I was just like really nervous, and I just felt really silly. And I was like, why the fuck haven't I done this already? Yeah. And then eventually I was like, look, I've never done this before. And she was like, oh, okay. So first she was like, that really surprises me. And I was like, all right. And
what then are you trying to say?
And then so we did it, and it was like kind of fine. I think the thing that was that I have built up such an identity around being bisexual, because I've been telling people that for a while.
To also get used to the idea yourself, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I was like, what if I do this and I don't like it and I realize I'm a fraud? And she was like, well, like maybe you kiss me and you don't like it, and it's like, but you'll like it with someone else. So she was like, this is also a lot of pressure on me.
Yeah.
She was saying,
she's like, oh my God, this is your first, like, it's kind of like virgin vibes.
And then I did kiss her and I was like, actually, I'm not that into this. And then I realised, I panicked, and then I realised, no, you just hate kissing. I've never liked kissing anyone.
Love to kiss.
I'm not into it.
I was someone who, when we'd go clubbing in like a huge group, I'd make out with like 10 girls and I was like, it's for attention. It was so gay.
Yeah. But I think I like kissing if it's like with sex or with some kind of other. I hate it when it's just like,
where is this leading?
It just feels like it's a bit silly or something to me. I don't know what it is, but yeah. Anyway, so I think you've just got to communicate with people that it's like, hey, I think most people are fine, actually.
Yeah.
For some people, they're probably like, oh, this is fun. Like, it's new for you. Like, it's not you, whatever.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, but I had a whole therapy session about it before I could do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it like a tailored thing, or you just spoke to your therapist?
No, it was just like, I've got to talk about it. I'm just so nervous. I'm worried I'm going to lead someone on and like, hurt someone and all this kind of stuff.
That's the thing as well. It's like, well, I feel like when you said about feeling like a fraud, because I feel like I tried to like talk to this is my best friend who I no longer speak to. So we're friends for like years and years. I actually never talk about it on the podcast because it's like too awkward. But anyway, I were like kind of like told her and my other friend that I would think I'm bi.
Yeah.
And I was just met with like, oh my God, no, you're not. Like you're absolutely not. Like you love dick. Like you're literally just doing this to like be interesting for attention or something. Like this is my best friend. And it was so hard because like I tried to do it multiple times like over a couple of years. Oh. And I was kind of just like, oh, this is, and it would always happen when I had been drinking and I kind of like loose lips like come out and be like, oh yeah, I think this is a thing. And like it's just met with like, no, you're not. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm not.
Oh, that's horrible.
And it was like the reinforcement of like, oh, maybe it is an attention thing. Maybe and it was kind of like the sexuality OCD thing where it's like you're obsessed with the opposite of it and you're like, oh, maybe I'm not. And then I'm like, I'm not. And then I'd like look at women in the street and be like, hey, am I attracted to that girl? Yeah. And it's like, how the fuck did you figure it out? Like, it's so confusing.
And that's like the reassurance seeking thing. Do you know what I mean? So and it's kind of like testing yourself.
Oh my God, And you get stuck in like a loop. I feel like as well, I've always had the confusion of how does someone know 100% when they're straight? And like it's also, and I don't want it to sound homophobic, but it's like, how does someone know 100% that they're gay? Because I feel like I've never had that complete certainty. And I'm just like, I just don't know what it feels like to be like, oh yeah, like 100% one or the other, like I've never been like completely secure in that. And that it sounds like, like when you say like, oh, how do you know you're gay? Like some people do know, and obviously I know that that's true, but I'm like, I've just never experienced that.
It's hard to understand something you haven't experienced, I guess. Yeah.
I want to talk to you about the time that you thought you were growing a penis and the concept of blue vulva, which I've never heard about because I'd literally never heard about it until you mentioned it to me. And so I just want you to just walk me through that entire experience because it's so random.
So the full, I think, medical term is prolonged clitoral erection. It's a bit of a mouthful.
I like blue vulva. Sounds like
blue vulva's fun.
Blue waffle.
Yeah.
That's kind of where my head went.
So the way that it happened for me was that a guy came around to my house. He's eating me out, but I couldn't relax. I think it was maybe like we hadn't had sex that much at my house and it was during the day. All my housemates were home. I could sort of hear them. Yeah. So I was just like, I can't relax. I can't get into it. I can't get off.
Yeah.
And we were also under a time constraint. He had to be somewhere.
There's too much going on here. In hindsight, you probably shouldn't have done it at all.
No. Anyway, so then he gets up and leaves and I'm still, it's not done.
Yeah.
So he goes. And I could feel, you know when you are aroused and it kind of like things kind of like swell.
Feels like hot and heavy down there. Yeah.
Yeah, because all the blood like rushes down. Yeah.
Yeah. Science.
So I could feel that the blood was still in there, like it wasn't sort of like releasing or whatever. And then after like a while, like maybe like half an hour or something, I was like, this is still in there.
Yeah.
And I've opened up my pants and I've looked in and it was just huge.
Oh.
It was enormous.
Wait, the clit.
So it was like.
For the whole thing.
Now this is embarrassing because I feel like I don't know the names of all the anatomy.
I can help you, but I'm also really. I thought that the pee hole was the clitoris till like last week.
So I guess the shaft
Wait, of the penis or?
No, me. Oh,
wait, the shaft is in the hole?
So
we need to get a mirror out and have a look.
So the outer labia was also quite swollen.
I know what that is. And that's because my friend got told that she has a fat pussy one time. But guys love it apparently. It's like cushioning.
Oh, but that's also sometimes the pussy mound. You know, the mound can be
on
quite...
the front?
What, I guess kind of where the pubes are.
Packing heat.
But anyway, you've got the shaft.
Yeah. Wait, is in the shaft of...
You might have to have a joke. Me! You've got a shaft.
What is that? Oh, the clitoris shaft.
Yeah, I guess. You know the clitoris is... You know it's big,
right? Yeah, big old
But
thing.
you know... Oh, sorry. But you know the little, like... The bit looks like a bit like a nose.
Yeah, the nose.
Yeah,
the nub.
So the clitoris nose.
The M&M.
What?
The M&M. It looks like a little M&M. A little
The rapper? Or,
no, a little Smartie. Does not look like M&M the rapper. Oh my God.
Does.
Looks like a Skittle.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Anyway, so that little nosy bit.
Yeah.
That was massive.
Oh.
Like a baby's cock. Like it was...
I'm going to cry. That's crazy.
It was enormous and it was already a little bit painful, right?
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I was like, fuck. Like I was really scared. I was like, you know, like crying because I was like, this is it. I'm growing a penis.
This is what happens,
I've heard about it happening. Like
when?
I feel like there's like some like tribe in, you know, a remote part of the world where like maybe the Mayans.
Okay.
Anyway, whatever.
The Aztecs.
Yeah. Didn't they do this? Anyway, but then I was also reading this like sci-fi fantasy, great book by Ursula K. Le Guin. And there's this
Shout out.
I think she's dead actually. But anyway, great author. She's got this great story in there about it's really cool because it talks about like it's really plays with gender, like this thing, and like people like changing from one gender to another and like whatever. But there's this bit in that where these people like go through the change at a certain age and their vulva and like clitoris like changes into this more like phallic kind of thing.
Okay.
And so I get a little bit like if I'm I have to be careful about what I read because I really like get into it and start to think I'm like I don't know, like a Merry Men or something or whatever. I don't know.
Fair.
Yeah. So I really did panic and I was like, shit, it's a penis and like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm going to have to go to the doctor, blah, blah. But I mean, that spiral happened, I reckon, within like 3 seconds. But it was like obviously but I really went down.
Yeah, like fainting in the Botox chair.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
allergic to Botox, I'm going to die.
Yes, exactly. It was exactly like that.
Yeah.
And then it's one of the few moments in my life that I've been like, thank God we have phones and we have internet right there. Because
imagine it was medieval times.
Because it would have been happening then too and they would have just been probably burnt at the stake or something.
Oh my God. That's so true. But also it's like, do you know what I found yesterday? It's a website where people ask about their medical ailments and then doctors can only reply. Because I was Googling something. I was Googling something random. And then I Googled it and normally it's like WebMD. It's like you got cancer or you're pregnant or you're going to die. But then I found this website and like people asking stuff and the doctors, it's pretty much just them reassuring, being like, no, you're fine. It's this. And it's like, oh, sick. This is the coolest invention ever because I just need peace of mind.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wasn't growing a penis, wasn't dying, but it still was an issue and it was getting more and more painful by the second.
Yeah.
And then so I've Googled and it's like, oh, this is called prolonged clitoral erection, the same thing basically as blue balls or also known as like penile preempsis or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And so basically it's just like the blood hasn't been able to get out. So you've got to try and like get it out some other way. So the first remedy was to just rub it out.
Like with blue balls.
Yeah. So then I was like, oh, cool, I'll give that a go. And so I was like masturbating for ages and it's just not going anywhere.
You're probably stressed as fuck as well.
I was really stressed.
Fuck. You can't get horny if you're stressed.
Yeah, exactly. And then...
Don't go together.
So it's just not working. And then I realized it was actually sort of seemed to be making it worse. Like it was probably just getting a bit inflamed and just like it was just
more full of blood.
It was disgusting. I actually
I need to Google it. I'm gonna Google it after this.
Google it. It was
Safe
like
search off.
You know Sesame Street, there's that guy Gonzo the Muppet. He's got the big red nose. It was a bit like that.
I've actually seen a penis that looks like that. It was a hook shape, and then I gave it a blowjob and threw up onto it because it just hit my gag reflex straight away. And then he didn't know, so then I just like ate the vomit and just kept going. I've never told this story.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So I was like, well, either I could just eat a little bit of vomit, whatever, or have this guy like freak out. I've just vomited on his dick. Can't believe I just told that story. I forgot about that.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah, mental.
Oh, far out.
I know.
Anyway, so rubbing it out didn't work. So then I had to like look at the next like option, and that was to take decongestant. So then I go down to the chemist and I was like, I had to, waddled there, by the way. I think there was like not many chemists open that day. I don't know what was going on. I had to just like, I couldn't put any underwear on. I had to just put on like a loose pair of pants and just like waddle down. And by this stage, it was really painful. Like it was like I could hardly walk. It was horrendous. And then I took a Sudafed, and then I've taken that and immediately it goes down. And then I don't know how long it was later. It was not long later, like a couple of days later. I'm at the same cafe. And then there's a woman on the table behind me, and she was just telling her friend about how she'd been pet sitting and it's all gone wrong. She's like, I'm pet sitting this rat. And then I had to ring up the vet and be like, oh, hi, is it normal for the rat to get an erection that won't go away? And then the vet's like, oh, no. And she's like, oh, how do I get rid of it then? And then, like, they don't obviously make these pills for rats. So then she's like, I had to grab his little penis and I had to rub and rub and rub and rub and rub and rub until he died of a heart attack. So it can be quite dangerous. So, anyway. But I've told people that and they're like, oh, what a great way to go. And I was like, no, it's not a great way to go.
Oh, you're like, I was there. I experienced that.
I don't know. I felt terrible for that woman. But I also don't know.
So imagine just like jacking off a rat until you killed it.
But
and also it's someone
else's rat. And then I was wondering, like, what kind of review do you get on Pet Sitter for that? Like, honestly, is it like, oh, you know, she went above and beyond?
Above and beyond.
Or is it like, this woman killed my fucking rat?
That is my favourite story ever. That is so crazy.
I had sex with this guy that, like, is from my hometown.
This is like my Sunny-hinged episode ever.
So he's from my hometown, and he used to be in my dad's class at school. Like my dad taught him in primary school. And so we've had sex, and then he's kind of like rolled over and was like, oh, how's your dad going? And I was like, no,
I don't want to talk about that.
No, definitely not.
Oh my God, I slept with a guy recently, and this is going to sound like I'm so up myself, but this actually happened. We were doing it, and then he goes, I can't believe I'm having sex with Maddie Carty. I was like, that is fucking crazy. Like, my ego was like, what? And then I was like, wait, that's weird. Is this like an exercise, like a stat for you? Like, this is fun.
So how, was he like a fan?
No, I knew him from like school.
Oh!
And I was like, what? Like, is this like a thing that you're going to go tell the boys from 15 years ago about? Oh, it was weird.
Oh, that is weird.
I know.
Like, say that in your head.
I know. But he actually is a great guy and, like, speaks my praises. He loves the podcast. Like, I'd probably fucking listen to it. Hello.
Oh, right. Wow.
Yeah, it was mad. And I was like, what a thing to say. And, like, what a thing to think and then say.
Yeah, I know.
Thinking it's one thing.
There's two stages. Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So... You said to me that you're fascinated by animal mating rituals.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to know what you mean by that and if you think that humans have them too.
Oh, so my favourite one is probably like the echidna has a really cute one.
What?
So, well, first of all, male echidnas have like a 4-pronged penis.
What, like a fork?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, or like
I'll put a picture of it right here in post.
Yeah, no, they do. Yeah, it's yeah, like a sort of a very messy looking fork.
Jesus.
And
then like a spaghetti fork.
Oh God, I don't know. It sort of also looks like if you got a small hand.
Like a baby's hand?
Yeah, no, I didn't want to say that.
I know,
yeah.
we've got
the babies.
The pedophilia OCD is going crazy in this episode.
So if you had a hand and then you chopped off all the fingers just before it kind of looks like that.
Like a stump with like...
Stumpy, yeah, with little stumps.
Like a prickly pear.
Potentially. Anyway, maybe just use the photo. I think is a good idea.
Yeah, right. Well, there you go.
Anyway, so that's what the males have got going on. And then the female, I don't know much about a vag, but what she does mating-wise is she just goes about her business and then the males follow her in what they call an echidna love train. And so she can have like up to 11 echidna males like following her at a time. And
like
then she
gangbang.
No, I think she's very much, I think, they kind of fight each other a bit.
Cool.
But they just follow her and then whoever's the last one standing, like she has sex with that one.
I actually would love that. That's kind of exactly what The Bachelorette is.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of it's kind of your roster just following you around.
Yeah.
And then when you're like, oh, yeah, and then you just
Do you know what? I heard about a girl that, like, invented her own version of The Bachelorette. So she went on Tinder, invited, like, 20 guys to the same bar on the same night, showed up and just dated all of them and just went and did the rounds. And she would be like, okay, I'm going to go talk to you. Like, just made her own Bachelorette.
And like, what? They accepted that? I'm surprised they weren't like, oh,
I mean, I don't know any more than that, but... You know, maybe...
I guess it's like the competition element of it being like, oh, which one of it, yeah.
Like, men would love that shit.
Yeah,
like,
wow.
Yeah, and men just love themselves. So they'd be like, I'll win. Like, people go on The Bachelorette to be rejected. Like, your chances are so slim.
Would you go on?
I would.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I would. But the thing is, I hate Aussie men. And I know that this is so broad. It's such a broad brush. But, like, I just find Aussie... men's accents to be so cringe, and there I said it. And like I think as well, to me, and this isn't saying that like camp men aren't hot, but like to me, really straight Aussie men that are like almost bogany come across very camp to me. But then I love a bisexual man, so I'm like, if it's, I don't know, it's such a like so hard because I lived in England for so long as well, and I've only dated and slept with English, Scottish, Irish blokes for like 8 years, and then now I'm back, I'm like, and I just keep matching with English people on Hinge and stuff, but then I'm like, they're just going to move away and I'll be broken.
Yeah. Or you could marry them.
Yeah, so I would go on The Bachelorette if everyone was foreign.
That'd be quite a fun season, I think.
Yeah, I reckon I might pitch it to them after this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to ask you about was animals being put on trial throughout history.
Yes.
So random. Couldn't find a way to weave it in the convo. So just need to straight up ask about that.
Yeah, I find it quite fascinating. So it was kind of like I think it started like in the 13th century was the first one. So this was a pig put on trial. Again, sorry for killing a baby. If you're a baby, don't listen to this episode.
If you have kids. If you're a baby on YouTube, I'll put like kids safe search on. Yeah. They won't be able to watch it.
Anyway, so yeah, pig was put on trial and yeah.
I just think the idea of an animal being, like an animal is a sentient being, right? It has consciousness. But it's like when people get mad at the shark in Jaws. Yeah. No, it's not evil. No. That's its home.
It's having a snack. It's
just having a snack. It's just like you walking into the pantry and having a little Tim Tam.
Yeah.
And if a Tim Tam's there, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not evil. And you told me one about a donkey as well.
The donkey one is my favourite one. So in 1750, there's a donkey in France that was put on trial. A donkey and a man, both put on trial for bestiality. So
but the donkey didn't know.
I know. So the nice thing about this one is
he thought it was a human dog fleshlight.
So usually what would happen was that the human and the animal in a bestiality case in those days would be executed. But in this case, so many people came out in support of the donkey and were like, no, she has always been of good character both at home and abroad. I don't know what abroad means. Is she traveling? I don't know.
Where country was it?
And then even the like local priest even like signed a thing saying, no, she's a good donkey, blah, 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 blah.
But like, isn't every donkey a good donkey? Like, I'm sorry, how different are they? And also, it's not its fault. It's just adhering to its instincts.
Yeah. But yeah, we were also saying like around this time also there was a whole heap of witch trials going on.
And
no one's coming out. How many people were coming out and being like, oh, this woman's of good character at home and abroad?
I've actually had a conversation with her. Like, we've actually like, shared a cup of tea and she's really lovely. Like, no one's supporting these women, but everyone's coming out for.
I do think it's a very interesting contrast.
Yeah. And it just goes to show people hate women. People also hate animals, but sometimes they love them too much.
I think they
have
pigs.
Sex with them.
There's so many. If you look at the animal trials throughout history, pigs.
It is mental how every time you say to someone, right, if you had to kill someone and put a body somewhere, what would you do? And everyone goes, pig trough. I'm like, okay, but I'm saying in real life, do you know any pigs? Do you know where the pigs are? Like, for me, I would
Can you trust them?
Yeah. Like, can you trust them not to say anything?
Yeah.
Like, and also, genuinely, if I said, like, right now, if I had to hide a body, do I Google pigs? Like, where do I find a pig?
Do you know who's got pigs?
Who?
My uncle that nearly shot his brother.
That is actually what you should tell the police, because that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the other interesting thing about the animal trials is that they used to actually dress them up.
In clothes?
In clothes. Because they're in court, so they have to be like,
to
looking
humanise
presentable.
them.
Well, they just have to look presentable, don't they? They're
Can't
in court.
be naked.
So they put like little hats on them and little like frills and stuff.
That is and it would have been proper like a kit. Because back in those days, I'm thinking like, you've got your little like Ron Weasley going to the Yule Ball vibes.
Yeah.
You know?
But it was also like, for one thing, they kind of thought that animals had a bit more of a moral compass than we think they do now. But then also,
that's crazy.
It was kind of like, was it just a bit of an entertainment thing?
Maybe it was like just for the vibes.
Yeah,
like do it for the vine.
Yeah, I think so. So anyway,
amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on as a guest. This has been probably my favourite episode of all time.
That's beautiful.
I do think that about every ep, but but this time I'm actually like, nah, that was really funny.
Banging.
Loved it. Bye.
Bye.